Welcome, everybody, to the Heal Your Human show. I am your host, Zach, and I have an incredibly special guest with me here today. I've got the founder of Heal Your Human, Matt Eller, with me today.
Hey, how you doing, Zach?
And I'm doing awesome. I'm super excited to have this conversation. We'll get into this a little later, but I'm a beta tester of Heal Your Human. You were so fortunate enough, or I'm fortunate enough to get the access. What I'm wondering is, Matt, Heal Your Human, at what point did you realize like this just can't be another health experiment, right? You're playing along with this AI and this data and trying to create a synthesis of understanding. When did you know you needed to create Heal Your Human?
I was in Florida at my friend's house, and we were sitting around having a cocktail, and we were talking about some new things that we were doing, and I started talking about Heal Your Human. And both he and his wife were like, well, wow, we just had our genetic testing done this last month. No, sorry, probably the last 6 months. And I don't know anything that the doctor told me. I don't know anything that we were actually doing with it. So I'm like, well, do you have it? And he goes, well, we really actually only have, I can take a picture of it. I'm like, well, I'll take a picture of it. So we went ahead and uploaded it into Heal Your Human, and it told them stuff that he's like, I've had this for 6 months and I have never heard anything that you just said, that you just talked about. Like, I understand all of it. He goes, can you forward that to me? I'm like, yeah, I'll forward it to you. And so that started it. And I'm like, wow. And people, not just him, but other people just started getting really, really excited about just the information it was giving them. And it wasn't just giving it in a way that was analytical. Like a lot of people would think like, oh, AI is a very analytical kind of thing. Well, it gave it to them more in a way of encouragement. And I think the thing that I like about it the most is that it gives you, it presents the information as your body is trying to tell you something. And the thing that AI is so good at is it's a very incredible predictive analysis tool. And so it uses trillions of points of data in order for it to really hone in on what's going on. So instead of us emotionally saying, oh man, I'm sick, I feel terrible, it's looking at it from a completely different area and saying, what are the signals your body's giving you to tell you what's wrong? And so I think some people, you hear the comment, Google doctor. I think we've all done that for the last how many years since Google's been, like, oh yeah, man, what does Google say about this, And
yeah, be careful because everybody's dying of cancer or has, kids like you've got less than 2 weeks left if you ask Google. Yeah,
that's right. And there's actually, I know that I've been to doctors and they've said, okay, I'm going to tell you something. Don't Google this. And you're like, oh gosh, okay, well, what? And then what do? The first thing is just like, when you're a kid, don't touch that leaf on the plant. And you touch it, like you want to know, right? Because you want to know all of your options. What could it be? What is this really? Because and I think some of the reason for that is that we're getting treated and we're not feeling that much better than we did. And that's so frustrating for so many people. And I actually had a gal that I have known, oh my gosh, she probably raised my kids. She was a neighbor of ours, and her husband and she, their kids and our kids, they all grew up together. We raised their kids, they raised our kids. We were all, a big family. And she had some stuff that had happened recently where it was kind of a thyroid thing that she's been going, and she's been taking thyroid medication for a long time, and she hasn't felt good. And she's, we're getting in, I'm in my 50s. I won't say what she's in or what age she is, but I'm in my 50s, and she's been taking this medication, and she kind of just came to the realization in her mind that this is just the way you feel when you get in your 50s. Like this is, and she's been feeling this like this since she's in her 40s. And I said, well, what, let's put this in Heal Your Human. Let's just see what it has to say about it. And we did, and it's like, well, okay, so some people would say, oh, are you against, modern medicine? Absolutely not. Like you have to use that, but there's also supplementation. There's lifestyle stuff that you can do, right? And I think that all good doctors would agree with that. And so what Heal Your Human said was, hey, keep taking. Let's just throw off the thought that you're going to stop using your medication, because that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But what your body is actually doing right now is giving you a signal that you haven't taken care of the core issue of why this happened in the first place. And it was a conversion, excuse me for not knowing it exactly, but it's a T4, T3 conversion. And in the midst of taking this medication that you're taking, take it, it's helping, but let's build your core back up. And so it gave a full protocol on how to do that. And it was the way it said it to her. She goes, I've never been told this in a way that was, period. She's never been told this at all. But additionally, she's never been told in such a way that it was encouraging to say, hey, you're not broken.
Yeah.
You're just have a signal. So listen to your signals and let's work with it and move you through this. And it even gave her timeline to say in 2 weeks, this is how you're probably going to start feeling, maybe a little bit better. In 4 weeks, here's your next steps and whatever. And that was very eye-opening and clarifying for her. And guess what? A month later, she's feeling better. Is she cured? She's not. But she's feeling so much better than where she was. And she has information and clarity that she never had before.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece, right? Is that, you can tune into dozens of podcasts or, get on a Reddit thread, and you get so deep into some of these things. And it's like, well, it's obviously, it's try red light. No, it's ice bath. No, it's this. No, try that. No, it's a HIIT workout. No, it's this. And next thing you know, because information is omnipresent to all of us at all times on every device, most people will try them all for about 2 days. Well, this didn't work. I still have brain fog. I get tired every afternoon around 3 o'clock. Hey, why do my joints hurt so bad? And so you give up or you feel hopeless.
Yeah, and it is. I think that it's very common, right? That right now everybody is dancing between what's the latest thing you heard on Instagram? What's the latest thing that was on, whatever news article out, or who's the influencer that's talking about this. And I think there just needs to be a place where we can go to and get consistent information that makes a lot of sense. So this maybe sounds a little crazy, but I'm a farm kid from Iowa, a standard hog and cattle farmer, corn, beans. And I remember, so we used to do organic farming on about 40 acres of our 1,000 acres that we farmed. Maybe it was 800 acres that we farmed. But anyway, about 40 acres. And because we all did field farrowed hogs, and we had a place where we could do organic farming. Well, on those pieces of ground, my grandfather would come out and he would be able to identify what micronutrients we would need, or major nutrients we would need on the field, by looking at the weeds that grew in the field. I'm like, how in the world? I'm not very old at the time, probably 12, 14 years old. How would you know that? He goes, well, grass right over there, like that's all grass over there, that's low on calcium. Wow, like that's how you know that? Yeah, so you need to put calcium on, next year you won't have as much grass. Oh, we've got pigweed over there. I can't remember the micronutrient that you need for pigweed. Oh, you've got mustard weed mustard, whatever it is, over there. Okay, well, you need this for that. It was crazy. And so if we start looking at that, and you kind of have this thought like, well, what if that was us as humans? Like, instead of saying we're prone to getting some disease, whatever that is, what if it was just we're prone to have a deficiency based on our heritage of a certain nutrient that then ends up making us more susceptible to a disease that maybe we could have? So start looking at your core of who you are. Get a blood test that actually tells you what you need to know, not just the high level stuff. So even in farming, we would get these fertilizer reports. It was N, P, and K, phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen. That's it. wouldn't get anything else. And so that's all you did, because those are the major nutrients that made the corn grow, made the beans, whatever, grow too. But you have a lot of other things in there that we would get and be more intentional about when we were doing organic farming, because we had to control the micronutrients, which controlled the weeds, so we didn't have such something would overtake the crop. I think that's the same with us. We have the same exact thing, and I see a lot of people, and I have seen it as people started looking at this with Heal Your Human, it looks at the core first, and then it really starts giving you answers and not just throwing guesses out there. And how does it do that? So initially, I think this is kind of how your story went, if I'm right, Zach. Like you just said, hey, here's my symptoms. I have these, this, and this. And then started asking, like, if these are my symptoms, what are some things that you think I might be deficient in? Or what do you think that I have maybe some SNPs in my genetics, which we haven't had that option until recently, right? Isn't this kind of your story?
Yeah, I mean, I started with just the health concierge piece of this, right? So at the time, Matt, I hadn't uploaded my DNA because I hadn't taken my ancestry test yet, and I hadn't uploaded any sort of lab work, even though I had some. And, for the purposes of the show, I'm an autoimmune patient, right? I've got ulcerative colitis. I've had it for 16 years. And one of the things I've always been frustrated with is when I go to my doctor, and I've been to Mayo and I've had a GI doctor again for this whole time, and every conversation we had felt like it was about symptoms and medication. Symptoms and medication. And what I'm hearing you say, which really resonated with me, is what your grandfather was saying was let's think about how we treat the soil, not the plant itself. And so I've been thinking a lot about and been much more curious in my journey to say, well, yes, I'm on these medications. And I will say, it's like, to your point, have they made my life better? They absolutely have. But that's not the end game for me. I want to get off of the medications. And the only way I do that is by treating the soil. And so I started the conversation with the concierge, and I said, hey, and it gave me quite a few questions to answer. Who are you? I'm a 43-year-old male. How active are you? And then we started going through lifestyle questions. And I'm like, this thing is getting a really good read. Again, without uploading my DNA, without having my blood work. Are you prone to this? Are you prone to that? Do you feel these things? How's your sleep? And it's like, well, I fight. One of the things my body fights is inflammation. And now, having uploaded my DNA, it's like, of course it does. And here's why. And so like when I was going to bring it up, when I got my DNA report back, it was telling me I've got a low COMT variant. And Heal Your Human says, well, that variant could slow down the breakdown of dopamine and norepinephrine and estrogen, which can affect my stress resilience. Like I hang on to stress a little longer, which then triggers an inflammatory response. I'd never heard that. I'd been to Mayo. Again, like it's a wonderful place. But over time, like I believe in, or I've gotten teaching from Dr. Terry Walls and her protocol of her diet, right? And so it's all of these pieces adding together, but I've gone from a place of confused, frustrated, and maybe sick to less confused, more informed, and quite frankly, feeling a lot better as a human, which it's given tremendous clarity.
And I think, and what you just said, common story. That's why we started Heal Your Human. I knew we had to get it out into the market. And I think that there's something that Heal Your Human does. So there has been quite an influx of, I think there's a ChatGPT Health. I think there's a Claude Health now too. And I think those are great. But I think that those are pulling from a lot of information, and we've honed ours in. And we've said, hey, we have a few very respected professionals that we have created a brain trust around in order for us to pull the information from their philosophies. And those philosophies are then guardrailed our information so that we can now give that information back out versus just pulling from all of it from all over the world for that matter, right? And I think that that's very helpful. to make sure that that you're not getting information maybe that is outside of that. But I also think that it's been great. So this isn't a doctor replacement by all means. It's not at all. It's an enhancement for people to educate themselves better, and not only themselves, but even it helps the doctors. So I think you have a story where, too, if you could share that, I think that's a common thing too, where doctors are actually appreciative of coming in informed to talk about stuff.
Yeah, I'd never even, probably 6 months ago or 8 months ago, I'd heard the words like methylation panel. And then I saw, maybe it was something that Gary Breck or someone else was promoting, Matt. And then I saw it had an $800 price tag to it or something like that. And I'm like, what? Number one, why is it so expensive? What is it? What could I learn from it? Here I am doing it with Heal Your Human for a fraction of that price, and the cost of doing Ancestry.com, which was like $30. But I've gone to both a recent GI appointment, and I have, just an annual physical, because I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I've got 2 kids. I want to look after my family, and I want to be in the best shape I can to do that. And I was sharing with my doctor, my just general doctor, my methylation. I go, hey, do you know anything about methylation? And he's like, yeah, I know a little bit about it. I'm like, well, what would you say if I told you X, Y, Z about it? And he's like, oh, I think that would make sense because you are battling inflammation. So you're on this kind of medication. Here's some of the lifestyle things you're thinking about. And I said, well, what would you think about if I supplemented with a B vitamin because of this, right? So I'm reviewing some of the Heal Your Human said, well, here's a path you could potentially go down, review it with your doctor. I got to sit down with my doctor and we had this conversation. He's like, yeah, it all checks out. And part of me, Matt, was like, well, when the hell were you going to tell me this? What are you, right. What are you waiting for?
Right.
Because I feel like I could have used it, and if you do, battle any sort of illness, you want answers. And I don't want to say you'll try about anything, but you'll try about anything within, a safety protocol. You just want to feel good. And what I'm finding is all these pieces are adding together. Again, maybe some of it's mindset. I'm now informed more. I've got more clarity. Yes, I am on a supplementation stack, which I feel like I've been loving, because the number one thing that I know is when all these things go right, I sleep unbelievably sound. And my sleep since end of last year, even till now, has gotten so much better, deeper, all the things that you would want. And now I'm trying to let go of some of the tracking of the numbers and stuff and just go, this is what normal feels like. And now my next path, or hopefully my next mission, is, again, I want to try to ease myself off of the medication I'm on longer term.
Right. And with better sleep, what does that do? When does your body heal? In deep sleep.
Everything changes. Yep.
Everything
changes. When your body's inflamed, like mine would be, and you're battling all those things, and again, if you've got ulcerative colitis or all my, Crohn's patients that are out there, it's awful. I mean, it's horrible. And it impacts every part of your life, and for all those people, there's a chance there to get some of your life back and become more informed and have a better conversation with your doctor. But the beautiful part about it was too, I didn't have to sit in a waiting room, or get on a schedule, or, oh, sorry, he's booked out for the next 4 weeks. 4 weeks, I need something now, but I need something that's about, Matt Eller and I respond to things, our bodies, very differently. And I'm learning that more now in my life. I wish I would have learned it earlier, but now is better late than never.
Yeah. And I think what works for you isn't going to work for me, just what you just said. And I also want to just point out something that I think is very true about doctors. They want you to heal. They really do. But here's what they are up against. They don't have time, or very few of them have the time to put in to really understand your body. And even if they did, right, because they are so swamped with so many people, they have about 10 minutes to really work with you, unless they don't, right? I mean, there are some that maybe take more time than that, but I think that all of them that I've ever met have their mission is for you to feel better. And so us coming in, who knows our bodies better than us? Nobody. We need to listen to our bodies and what it's telling us. And I think that's where the name Heal Your Human came from.
Yeah, I love it.
Is we're spiritual creatures having a human experience. And the better we can heal our human, the better we can take care of our human, the better we're going to feel and the more present we're going to be. And which just makes us better dads, better grandpas, better husbands, better friends. And it's such a better life. And I think that where you were saying, I mean, back to my point, or well, it's not really a point, who I am as a person, I'm a farmer, right? So with that comes some of the stuff I already talked about with my grandpa, and even livestock. Let's just talk about that quick. We do not treat our livestock, we couldn't afford to every time they got sick, we couldn't afford to always give them some kind of antibiotic. Now, sometimes they would get some kind of something that we'd have to give them antibiotics, but most of the time we treat them with supplements. We treat them with different things. We can tell by walking around in the cattle yard, looking down at all of the poop that's down there. But, oh man, something's going on. We've got one, and we look for her, look for him, and we treat them and whatever, but we don't, you can't afford to treat them all with a bunch of antibiotics. So we would do it with supplements. And I think that as we do that, I think we can do the same thing with ourselves, keep us healthy. But then there's also another thing. And this is where you are getting to with your ancestry DNA and your 23andMe and some of that, is that I did it. I was told, like, hey, and it was the same person, Gary Brecka, just an absolute unbelievable interviewer. I heard his Joe Rogan interview back in November of 23, I believe. And it just spoke to me so big. And I went out and ordered my genetic test. And it was like $750. And then I had to have a $250 appointment for somebody to tell me what the heck it meant and whatnot. But he really described in that interview of if you have SNPs, what they meant and what maybe you should be taking. And so, and that really, because I was into artificial intelligence at the time, I'm like, man, I wonder if this could start really kind of helping for me to understand this. But then more importantly, I'm like, hey, you know what? I was one of the first ancestry DNA guys. I was a 23andMe guy. And I'm like, I wonder if these same genes are in those reports. And so I looked and I'm like, man, you can get your raw report right off of Ancestry DNA. So I ordered it. And then I looked and I'm like, oh my gosh, I found the genes. And it even has if I have a SNP in them or not. So trained AI to find them, pull them out. And if you've already had that done, you could save yourself legitimately, because it's like $120 for a year for your Heal Your Human. You're saving yourself probably $850 to $900. Just that you could have for the amount of time. You would have a 10-year time with Heal Your Human, as if you were just to pay for that if you've already done your ancestry DNA or your 23andMe.
Yeah.
So huge savings, which I think that you saw. I mean, you got yours on special for a Christmas.
It was I did it on the timing worked out. It was Black Friday, and so I hit a perfect window. I mean, I think it was like $30 or $35. And no offense to those businesses, I could have cared less that my ancestors are from West Germany or this Irish. I didn't want that. I wanted the DNA, the raw file, because I knew with Heal Your Human that's what I could upload, right? And again, and get this readout, which for all the other people listening or watching too, that think about if you have tried or going down the supplementation path, well, ask it why. What would this be doing to my body? You could be doing the wrong things based on what you heard. I love Joe as well, or Gary, but people will grab for things for answers, and this might tell you it's a 180 by a quick test or even just dialoguing again with the concierge. It's available to you 24/7. I mean, it's I've used it to help refine diet, number one, which is a big thing. I think, look, like, if doctors don't lie, right? Like diet and exercise.
Every time.
Tried and true. Dr. Terry Walls, that I follow, again, follows her. She has the Walls protocol, which is a diet. The right kinds of exercise, though, my body responds. Like if I do a really hard HIIT workout, it actually holds on to that stress longer, might make it a little harder for me to sleep, might be better for me to do like zone 2 type things or body weight exercises, because I also deal with inflammation, sometimes like joint pain. I knew these things because if you said the word signal And when I first started getting into Heal Your Human, I'm like, signal, 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 signal. But I didn't know based on who I am as a person. And the other cool thing you had told me one time, Matt, you're like, your DNA isn't going to change, Zach. You need that one test for the rest of your life. Your blood work you can add and refine and see changes in, your outputs or how your body is performing or healing or where it needs vitamins. But your DNA is your DNA. This is a one-time deal, people, that you can have. And now I think, unlock the rest of the next 20, 30 years, 50 years from me. I don't know.
And I think on that, and this is another reason that I really think that Heal Your Human for me is really good. So it's one place to put your stuff, right? So you have your DNA in there. It saves your, and it doesn't save the entire raw data, right? It just pulls out what it needs. It saves that in there. And then you get blood work done. However often you might get it done. I've done it once a year. I've done it once a quarter, depending on how I feel, depending on what I want to know. And so I get my blood work done. So now you put both of those in there. And every time you're talking to the health concierge to get more educated about who you are, what you're doing, how you're responding, what your symptoms are, what your signals are, if you will. And it knows all of that stuff and it builds on top of it. So it compares to say, hey, this is where you were last year, or maybe let's say it's 5 years from now. Hey, 5 years ago, you were here, and the only way to really measure is backwards. You can't measure forwards, you have to measure backwards. So as you get your information in, you have constant things that you can now trend and start seeing if you're getting better or you're getting worse. Like, oh my gosh. And I think that that's a motivation factor for people to say too, like, oh, we know that diet and exercise is always something that we should be doing. But all of a sudden, if you start seeing things trending the wrong way, you're way more motivated to take care of it, or trending the right way. Like, man, I feel great. Like, and this is why.
Yeah. I think I told you this the other day, but in February, I created a chat that every day I was effectively talking to my device and saying, here's what I had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how I slept, and what exercise I was doing. So it cataloged all of February, which you said, what does AI excel at, right? Synthesizing data, pattern recognition, and looking forward. And I said, hey, give me a readout, right? You have all this information now, literally 28 days straight. I said I was going to do it. I did it. And what is this leading to in terms of my sleep output? And it said, well, when you have this for breakfast and you're eating these whole foods for lunch and you have this kind of exercise, your sleep scores, which I don't always do, but wearing my Apple Watch, I'm like, I'm curious, 94, 96, 97.
Wow.
Feeling amazing, so like history drives strategy. I say that, even in our business, but I'm so much more informed. And again, I think people could do these things, but Heal Your Human serves as that place, right? It's the genesis to keep those things. Use it to talk to your doctor. Use it to talk to if you've got a specialist, right? Use it to talk to, we've spoken about this a little bit, but if you've got a personal trainer, hey, take a look at this readout. This is who I am as a person. Would any of this impact how I either not only work out or exercise, but recovery? How do you recover? My body personally, I've learned, doesn't respond incredibly well to the ice bath. It's too much stimulus. I'll stay cold for hours. And it's not because I'm staying in there forever. It's because my stress gets wound up too tight. My body doesn't get rid of it as fast. Wow. Nice to know. Nice to know.
Didn't know that. Wouldn't know that. Like, hey, everybody's talking about how good it is for you. I feel like crap at the end of the day.
Didn't make me feel well.
Yeah. I think we're all individuals. We all respond differently. I think that that's something that's nice about Heal Your Human. It looks at you specifically. It doesn't compare you and say, hey, this worked for the person before you that had the same symptoms, but it doesn't know you. And I also think that doctors will come in and be very appreciative of you coming in with information for them to look at it. And they'll be able to, even if it is something that you need to be prescribed something, or if it's something else that's going on, they have more information that they can help really kind of work on. So all this is something, I don't know where I got this term. Somebody else said it. I just can't remember who, but be the CEO of your health. Take control of who you are, and be educated and get clear. And I think that I have this year, so I journal in the mornings. I take time, do my, prayer time, my meditation and whatnot. But, and I've got my wife thought it was kind of funny, but I like it. And I just drew it this morning again. But I have a butterfly on the front of my journal. And the reason I have a butterfly is that I think we can sit here, and I heard this too from somebody, and I don't want to plagiarize. I just can't remember who it was. But ultimately, as we sit there and we look at a cocoon, just watching it, right? We sit there and we're amazed at what comes out of the cocoon. It's a butterfly, right? So a butterfly comes out of the cocoon. But if you're inside that cocoon, it's a whole different perspective than when you're sitting outside of
Quite
that
daunting,
cocoon,
yeah.
right? And so I think that as we sit sometimes outside and feel terrible, where we're feeling like, oh my gosh, I have brain fog, or I have all the different, I don't feel good, or I'm getting old, and why am I gaining weight and I can't lose it, or whatever it is. But now you have the information and the clarity you need. And now you can go inside that cocoon and you just start working and you start doing things and you start gradually just getting better as a human, and you start healing, one, by maybe sleeping better, two, by supplementing with things that your body actually needs and you're not guessing. There's a lot of things that happen, and you end up coming out, I would say, like a butterfly, and you're like, dude, I look so much different. My outlook on life looks so much different than it did. And that alone with a mindset can really change a lot of things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, and if the path we were on was so good, I just telling my wife, it's like, why would as a nation, why are we fatter? Why are we people are living longer, but some of that is, just based on the medicine, but we're not as healthy as we once used to be, right? We're not as maybe agile or athletic as a society. There's got to be better answers. And it's not the broad-based medicine, we've seen. You've got to have more informed conversations. And I think this piece of it it's been an incredible part of my life journey so far. I'm thankful for being introduced to Heal Your Human. And I hope everyone that, can tune in and watch the show today can get something from this.
Yeah, me too. So it's helped a lot. And I hope people jump on and find the same kind of healing that a lot of other people have had with just in so many different areas of their life. So.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us, Matt. Appreciate you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks. You bet.